All right, so welcome to the edition of Military Trailblazer Office. Thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to spend it here in the spirit of community mentorship and learning. I'm your host, David Albright, joined by Geraldine Hall and David Nava. I'm a solution engineer here at Salesforce and a military trailblazer. Each week, we invite a co-host or co-host to take part in the conversation so that we can leverage their experience, expertise, and unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session is Salesforce DoD Skillbridge update and fellow success stories. So if you're interested in Skillbridge, this is a session for you. I'd like to welcome and briefly introduce our co-host panel for tonight's session. We have an all-star cast here, many of which you know. Constance Quinlan, David Anderson, Megan Rosenberger, Mike Nolan, Shane Bowling, and Darren Paladino. Connie is a U.S. Army veteran and currently a National Security Business Strategy Director for Public Sector Professional Services at Salesforce. She's also a Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellow at Salesforce for Solution Engineering. David is an Air National Guard veteran and the Military Recruiting Program Manager at Salesforce. He's also a full life cycle recruiter and Skillbridge veteran pipeline architect. Megan is a U.S. Navy veteran and currently an account executive at Salesforce. She was also a Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellow account executive at Salesforce. Mike Nolan is an Air National Guard veteran and currently the Senior Manager of Military Recruiting Program at Salesforce. He is also currently a Veterans Ambassador Volunteer with SHRM and the former Salesforce Vet Force Global President for 4 years, among numerous other volunteer roles supporting the military community. Shane is a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and currently an account executive in manufacturing, auto, and energy at Salesforce. He was also a Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellow with Salesforce on the Enterprise Corporate Sales team. And finally, Darren is a U.S. Air Force veteran and currently an engagement director for Public Sector Professional Services at Salesforce. He was also a Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellow at Salesforce on the Public Sector Professional Services team. So we have pretty much an all-star cast from all around Salesforce with a lot of different sectors and professions in here. So it's a great team to talk to for getting some of those viewpoints. With this point, would you like to all take a moment to introduce yourself further and share your Salesforce story? We'll probably swing through it pretty quick, and then we're going to turn it over to Mike Nolan to talk about the Skillbridge. Connie, why don't you start us off?
Okay. Connie Quinlan, like Dave said, I'm a Services Business Strategy Director for the defense sector. So our national security customers recently retired from 20 years active duty in the U.S. Army as of a few months ago. Started out as a signal officer, did the second half of my career as an Army strategist, and spent the past 5 years in the Pentagon, a lot of time working for the Chief of Staff of the Army as his speechwriter and strategist. Like David mentioned before, I had the great opportunity to do the Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship with Salesforce, actually thanks to Dave Albright, which started out by watching Military Trailblazer office hours about a year ago, and was able to find a job to join the Ohana, and here I am today. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Megan Rosenberger, how about you next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Megan Rosenberger. I am a growth account executive out of our commercial business at Salesforce. My background at the military, I was a naval intelligence officer and made my way into the Salesforce ecosystem through the Military Fellowship Program. I was in the inaugural cohort. So really excited to convert that fellowship program into a full-time role. I did my fellowship out of the public sector organization, so have a little bit of experience with both the public sector as well as the commercial organization now. So really excited to be here and look forward to answering all your questions.
Thank you. Shane?
Yeah, hello all. Shane Bowling. So I'm a mid-market account executive within the manufacturing vertical. Been with Salesforce for almost 1 year now, including my time as a Hiring Our Heroes fellow. Did 10 years in the Marine Corps active duty, and I still am continuing my Marine Corps journey as a reservist right now. So largely spent my time in the Marine Corps on the ground combat element side, and also with Special Operations Command. So got to work with some great people, do some great things in some not so nice places, but very grateful for the opportunities. And this organization, Salesforce, has allowed me to continue on that trajectory of being in a high performance culture, and couldn't be happier. So great to be with you all.
Thank you. Darren?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Darren Paladino. I am a engagement director at Salesforce Professional Services. If you haven't heard that term before, what that means is that we bring consultants and architects and developers to solve problems for customers and help them achieve their visions. So that's what professional services does in Salesforce. I didn't start there. I started as an Air Force aircraft maintenance person, and then logistics. And then I got into a lot of resourcing at the Pentagon, connecting that to strategy. You can call that a lot of budget wars with that building. I didn't know about my Salesforce journey while it was going on. Eventually I discovered Salesforce, and I just could not believe how accessible the training was available, and how it was just the whole community just make it so easy to progress and find support and really make progress on getting to a tech career. So I'm thrilled to be here to talk with you. I've caught a lot of the MTOH replays because the time zones and work schedules haven't worked out. So I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you. David Anderson, one of the stars of the show.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, I appreciate it, everybody. Like Dave said earlier, I am a military recruiting program manager here, and pretty much run the Skillbridge program is really what I do. But I kind of came through a unique route. I actually was on one of these roughly 3 years ago. I was on one of these that David Scott Nava hosted, and I asked a question in there, and I think there was someone from Google on there, and they told me not to get into recruiting. And it was my way in, and I had a bunch of people after that, including David Scott Nava, said, hey, if you have an opportunity at salesforce.com, take it. I was working as an Air Force recruiter in a little office in Boise, Idaho, and special warfare recruiter is what I did when I was on active duty, a current Air National Guard veteran at 16 years now. So I still have a couple more left, a couple more drill weekends to get through. But then came on, met Mike Nolan by reaching out in kind of a forum similar to this, where someone mentioned his name. I reached out to him, and he said, hey, sure, I'll take a call from this guy in Idaho and see if we can help him out. And anyway, talked to him. He actually referred me to a role here, and I was fortunate enough to accept a role while I was still on active duty, and then came here. And then Mike stole me about 5 months later from senior recruiting position that I had, and became a recruiting program manager. So that's how I got here. And now I've been hosting fellows for just over a year and a half. Mike and I had a pilot program started a little bit before our inaugural one that came on, that Megan was a part of, as well as Shane. I've been fortunate enough to have Shane, Megan, Darren, and Connie all come through me and come into Salesforce and all get hired. So it's been super exciting, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Yeah, and then last but not least, Mike Nolan, who I think probably has touched all of us as we've come through the program. So Mike, why don't you give us your background, and you can kind of lead right into your talking points.
Thanks, David. Hey, everyone. Mike Nolan. So yes, I've been fortunate enough to talk with a number of people on this call. I tell people all the time I have the best job on the planet, but coming up on 10 years at Salesforce, December 1st, including my contract time, I did serve in the Mass Air National Guard as well. Kind of similar to Darren, came from a very weird background. I was an HVAC mechanic on a combat communications squadron, and then got into recruiting. I mean, how you tie those two together, I have no idea. But it's been, it brought me to this point, not only where I was fortunate enough to be global president for 4 years of VetForce, but recognized that Salesforce didn't have a military recruiting arm or division. And it was nothing short of like a temper tantrum for a year and a half till they finally said, all right, put a business case together and tell us why we need this program. Luckily, I did a pretty good job at that because we're all here today. And I have the honor now of talking about the 2 fellowship programs that we're hosting internally here. We're gonna take this approach from both sides of the fence. So if you're on this call because we sent this out internally, and you're a manager or a senior individual contributor who'd be interested in hosting or participating in a mentorship when these fellows are on site, we're going to give you information from that perspective. And then for anybody who is Skillbridge eligible or eligible to participate in the military spouse employment program, we're going to give you the information that you'll need as a fellow to be considered to join and be part of one of our fellowships. So quick overview, just in case anybody doesn't know, let's just get it right down to basics. Skillbridge, both of these programs are DoD funded, and Irish, you're going to keep me whole on this one, but Skillbridge is for any active duty service member within the last 6 months of their service commitment, they can apply to participate in the Skillbridge program. Essentially, the Skillbridge program states that while you're active duty, the DoD will let you go work at a hosted company for 12 weeks, essentially to bridge the gap from skills from military career to your civilian career. So this experience is invaluable for a number of different reasons. One, from a company perspective, it doesn't cost us anything because the DoD pays for it. So it is really an incentive program to get those transitioning servicemen and women to come into our organization, really have them assimilate so they can understand and see how things can be different from a civilian to military career, but also how the military career can translate so well into the civilian world. They'll have an opportunity, all of our fellows, and we'll get into some success stories after, but they get the opportunity to work with our teams. The teams that we have by pulling in veterans, military spouses, and our strong military allies within Salesforce have created some amazing experiences. Obviously, we've got some individuals here who have gone from that transition and now are full-time employees. But these skills are invaluable because you're giving that individual that firsthand approach. You're spending time with them. You're really walking them through the process. So from a fellow's perspective, it's invaluable, the time that in the little time that you will spend actually to really make such an impact on this transitioning service men or women's life as they start their new career and they end their military career. From a hiring or hosting manager's perspective as well, the feedback that we've gotten is like, this is one of the most rewarding things I've done in a while. Like, it's so fulfilling that I can actually help that serviceman or woman make their career transition, leave the military. They did some great things serving our country. Now I had the opportunity to help them secure their civilian career. So like feel good type stuff, like it is really, it's an amazing experience. I can personally say firsthand because Shannon Alina, who I believe is on this call, she was the first fellow that we hosted who's a military spouse, and now she's full-time on our team. And we have our second military spouse that we're hosting, Jess Rodriguez, who unfortunately couldn't jump on the call today. So that's Skillbridge. There's also the Mil Spouse Career Accelerator Program. So the DoD finally opened their eyes and they recognized that military spouses are the most under and unemployed in the civilian labor job market. So you've got this group of military spouses, both men and women, who, if they follow their husband or wife from PCS to PCS, like there's really no stability in that. In a lot of companies, especially pre-COVID, there wasn't this remote option. And now even you can see as we've kind of changed to going back to an office model, there are far less remote opportunities than there were 2 years ago. So this is really a great opportunity to get that fellow who, in my case, for example, with Shannon. Shannon had some unbelievable experience. She was working Booz Allen. She was a DoD consultant, had clearances. But unfortunately, when she had to be bouncing around to follow her husband, who was retired from the Marines after 25 years, Booz Allen finally had to say to her, like, listen, we got to ask you to resign. Like, we can't keep this going. We don't have any work for you in this location. So you've got a great pool of spouses who are, unfortunately, because of who they're married to, are put in sometimes career-ending situations. So this is really where you're going to pull from a pool of individuals who have incredible talent. They have incredible skills. Like Shannon is 1,000 times smarter than me. Like, having her on the team is amazing for the stuff that she's been able to do operationally. She's got a marketing strategy for the military recruiting program. Like, what she brings to the table is far out beyond my capabilities. So I couldn't be more happy to have hosted her and now have brought her to the point that she's a full-time employee. So those are the two programs. Just as a quick overview, I don't want to be talking, keep the yapping and yapping. So I'm going to ask a couple fellows. I'm going to pick a couple to talk about their story. And then what I'm going to have Dave do is I'm going to have Dave break down, after we hear a couple stories, what are the options for hosting or participating and supporting these fellows. So Megan, let's start with you, because you've got some great stuff that you did during your fellowship. If you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your story, in your journey and to getting to the point that you earned the fellowship, and then how it went through for you.
Absolutely. So to kind of kick it off on how I got the fellowship, I really have to call out Dave Anderson again, because he found me. And I was kind of looking at different companies, and Dave said, "Hey, did you look at Salesforce?" And so I went through this exact same process of educating myself from veterans who are now at Salesforce to determine if it was a fit for me, and really excited that for me during my fellowship, I started in a role that I really could see myself in post my transition. So that being within the public sector organization as an account executive. And during that time, I think I spent a lot of my time translating my time in the military and the Navy as an intelligence officer, and how that is relevant to what I'm doing today as an account executive. But not just translating it kind of personally, being able to communicate that with individuals that I was interviewing with, and just really sharing a little bit more about the military as well. And so through that interview process, I think, that took some time, and my time during the fellowship, I really just absorbed, met so many people throughout the company, learned from them, learned from their experiences, veterans and non-veterans alike. And when I came to the point of the interview, really having a good picture of where I saw myself within Salesforce, and really excited to kind of get started within the commercial organization as an account executive. So it's a lot of learning. There's a lot thrown at you, but it was a very rewarding experience. And I'm just so grateful for those on the call today with Dave and Mike, and the rest of the veterans here who were really instrumental in providing me that guidance during my fellowship.
And you said you met a few people during the time of the fellowship. Why don't you tell and give us the final number of how many 30-minute calls you had within that 12-week period?
So within the 12-week period, I met with over 200 individuals within Salesforce. And every single call, I learned something new. And every single call, I think, made me more excited to be within the Salesforce Ohana too. And by the end of it, I was just so excited. I had learned so much. And really found myself in a great point for my military transition. So I'd encourage everyone, just reach out, use the resources to as many people as you can, and hear from their own career journey, because it really helped me.
And resources being that Megan was kind enough to put a framework together of every trail she took, every person she took. So this is a rinse and repeat for any fellow that's coming into a sales to align with a sales role. She gave this all to us at the end. It's like, oh, by the way, I did this for you. And we're like, oh my God, like, this is amazing. Thank you. So we owe a lot to you, Megan. I'm so psyched to see that your career is taken off. You landed where you want, and you're part of the team. So love that. Darren.
Thank you so much.
Darren, let's move to you now. So tell us a little bit about your story, your journey. We kind of got a little bit of the front end of what your military job was, but we'd like to hear your take on things.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. I remember talking with you at the beginning of my Salesforce trail, which is probably about 2 or 3 years ago. So it's fantastic to be able to talk with you like this now. That was a veterati call back then.
Yep.
So I started, like I said, in Air Force aircraft maintenance. And when I was just sharing some thoughts the other day on the off the record chatter on NTOH, also, I was sharing how the tech career is all around you, right? So what I came to realize is that, not only was everybody I was working with involved in data and technology and making sure that was right, it continued throughout my entire career, whether you were putting data in or getting data out, right? And so that's really kind of what got me interested in Salesforce, because, you always like, what if I had a technology or capability where I didn't have to do as much searching, or I could update one thing? And that did not exist in aircraft maintenance for a very long time, right? I was carrying around a steno pad for for many years, right? But once I realized that I wanted a tech career for that reason, I started listening to and meeting to military Trailblazer office hours and engaging with some of the guest speakers that were right there on the channel. And everybody was enthusiastic, open, and very helpful, right? What I discovered is that happens right here at Salesforce every day, right? So you can tell, why the community is so engaged and supportive of each other, because it comes, right here from the people in the company. So at some point, I discovered Hire Your Heroes. I thought it wasn't a factor because my timeline didn't work. But when Dave Anderson wrote "Follow Me and Fire on the Runway," I did. And he showed me what an off-cycle cohort meant. So if you get a chance to do it, don't be like me. Don't be late. Get your briefings done right away, because there is no substitute to taking what you're networking from in the service to what you're experiencing in a fellowship. So getting up to that, though, I still had to translate my military skills and experience, right? And many veterans go through, active duty personnel, spouses go through the, am I a project manager or not? Well, then the question is of what? Am I a consultant or not? Of what? And I started to learn about that through networking as I closed out my my Air Force career and also my career as a federal civilian.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren. So I'm gonna hand it over to Dave right now, and I'm gonna have him talk through the 3 different options that we have for if you're a fellow, or if you're a manager who would be interested in hosting a fellow, or even being what we call a fellowship guide. So Dave, I'll let you run with this.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, and I'll try to be short-winded, because if you know me, I am not. I am normally long-winded, but I'll try to keep this because I know there's gonna be a lot of questions potentially at the end. I want to get to those.
Yeah, we're getting some in chat too, so we'll clean them up, and we see those, and we'll get them as Dave finishes up.
Yeah, and I'll make it quick, but basically for the Skillbridge side of things, we have 2 ways that we can host. We use our corporate partner, Hiring Our Heroes. As long as you can get approved for them through the corporate fellowship, this is going to sound confusing, not through the Salesforce corporate fellowship, but just through the corporate fellowship that all the other corporates are a part of. That's Mike and I. Iris Collis can help you with the Salesforce fellowship. So that's clear. Skillbridge, then, what we can do is we can host you either on cohort or off cohort in a series of 3 months, and that could either be with a hosted manager, or that could potentially be hosted by myself, Mike Nolan, Tess Rodriguez, or Shannon Alina. And what we'll do there is we would align you to a fellowship guide. A fellowship guide will be a current veteran within the company that is going to help guide you into a role that you think would be a good fit for you. And we hope that that guide is in that role. For instance, Megan Rosenberger, if she came to me and wanted to be an account executive, I would align her to an account executive currently at Salesforce who is also a veteran, who can align her and kind of like she could shadow and follow and learn all the training that's available. That would be hosted from the military recruiting team. Why that's important is, let's say a lot of times a lot of hosting managers do want you on site, and that means at one of our hub locations or at one of our office locations. And that can be hard for people that are PCSing out of North Carolina, or excuse me, they're not PCSing, they're stationed in North Carolina, but they want to be in DC or wherever it is. What we can do is we can host you remotely and then align you to where you would want to go, because we haven't found an area yet that doesn't have a veteran, that doesn't have someone that wants to assist our team. That would be the fellowship guide hosted by the military recruiting program team. The other benefit with that side is, like me, let's say you don't know what you want to do. We can help you figure that out. Because some people like myself, when I was leaving, I just wanted to be at Salesforce. I saw the blue cloud and I knew I wanted to be there. I worked in sales years ago and I had a really bad CRM. And so the first company I looked at was Salesforce, because they were the best CRM and I always wanted it. So that's where I went for my first step. Wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to go. So we can do that. We also have hosted manager one, like Connie went through. Connie went through a very specific on-site. She had a hosted manager here who also was able to walk her through, hey, these are team meetings. This is what we go to market with our products. This is exactly how GovCloud works and all those things. We have that option as well. That's a lot easier if you're stationed in an area where we have an office. So we have those 2, and then the military spouse one as well. And Mike, am I missing anything on that?
Nope, you're on point.
Okay, that was quick for me. Yeah. So I'll stop there, and if anyone has, we can jump in, Dave. I don't want to take too much more time.
Yeah, let's do that. And then Mike, then we'll flip it back over and we'll look at the other two fellows. Vanessa has a question. The fellowship program seems like a wonderful opportunity for transitioning service members and their spouses. Are there any similar resources for veterans who have already transitioned out of the military? Now, this is a tough one.
Great question. We're still working out some details. Iris might be able to correct me here as well, but there is something called through Hiring Our Heroes as well. There's called Career Forward, and you can apply for that. And I have been given, as of most recent, I have been given the ability to host veterans that have gone through the approval process with Hiring Our Heroes with Career Forward fellowships. Typically, I believe there's a Google certification related to that, but either way, I have hosted individuals here through the Career Forward program.
Perfect. Thank you. Portia has asked, as a mill spouse, her husband's getting ready to, will be PCS to Germany soon. As a mill spouse, would I be able to apply for the HOH fellowship from Germany if I moved with him, or would I need to remain stateside in order to participate in the program?
Great question. I'm glad you're here, Portia. By the way, I have seen your LinkedIn message. I just haven't got all the way to that one. I was going to respond. Portia and I have actually spoken before. So there might actually be a very unique opportunity here that I'd like to talk to you offline about. We wouldn't want you to, be separated from your spouse, but as far as I know, Hiring Our Heroes would allow a US-based company to host overseas at a US base. And so we would just have to figure out some different items there and like time zones and different things like that. Could be a potential. Also, Iris's program might be, go ahead. I think Iris rose her hand. I'll let her jump in.
I'm sorry. Unfortunately, because of those SOFA laws that we haven't cracked yet, we can't host spouses overseas, but we can host service members overseas as long as they're like coming back. It's a really tough thing that we're still struggling to crack. So unfortunately, I always tell spouses to get on Trailhead and skill up and be ready to nail that fellowship when you get back. But again, I'm happy to talk to you if you want to send me that email and we can chat about what things you can do, Portia.
Yeah, SOFA is always super complicated when it comes to the jobs and the spouses. Mr. Nava, you have a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to pivot back a moment to Vanessa's question and provide an additional resource for folks that may not qualify for the Hiring Our Heroes Fellowship, but do have access to Salesforce Military. So within Salesforce Military, you have access to the Hiring Alliance or the Talent Alliance, which is essentially, it's 500 plus industry partners in the Salesforce ecosystem that Salesforce Military and Salesforce have gone out and reached an agreement with that if you earn your first certification, developer or admin, they will give you a first round interview. No obligation to hire, but they will. You will get your foot in the door with an interview. And if you've gone through that and for whatever reason you don't get the interview, then you can reach out back directly to Salesforce Military and let them know, and they will work with that employer to make sure that you get that. So that's a great way to meet, greet, and get access to those interviews at those companies. And you can find that on the Salesforce Military site.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That's a really great point. Dave and Mike, back over to you. I think we're going to go talk to Shane and Darren next, right?
Shane,
Connie.
Yep. So Connie, let's ladies first. Let's start with you. Let's hear your story. So everybody on the call can understand what your journey was like to get you to the point of the fellowship, and really how it's how it's gone from that point forward.
So in my case, I knew well in advance that I was going to be retiring and what that date was going to look like. The timing did work out perfectly with the Hiring Our Heroes cohort. So I didn't have to, do an off cycle like Darren did. And ironically, I had never heard of Salesforce before March of 2023. And I had planned on doing the Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship, but I was on the website and I saw that there was a Hiring Our Heroes Salesforce Fellowship. And it appealed to me because it was advertised as being completely remote. And as a mom of 2 little kids, that was a big incentive for me. So I started digging into Salesforce, discovered this channel, and every single day was listening to Military Trailblazer office hours. I was watching Dave Nava's tips on LinkedIn branding and networking. I was finding every single interview with any military Salesforce employee I could find. And I noticed a lot of them were people with non-tech backgrounds. And everyone, no matter what, always seemed really, really happy to be working there. Now, something we haven't touched on yet for the Salesforce Fellowship through Hiring Our Heroes, there was the requirement to get a certification. So I got started on Trailhead and I started working towards my admin certificate, which I was able to earn in about 3 months by the skin of my teeth. Thanks to people like Iris, I was able to apply to both fellowships at the same time, the Salesforce Fellowship and the Corporate Fellowship through Hiring Our Heroes. So I could see what opportunities were out there and figure out exactly what I wanted. The more I went through the process, the more I realized I really wanted to be a part of Salesforce, the company, versus being more involved with other companies working on Salesforce, the product, which is more the focus of the Salesforce Fellowship. In the meantime, I had connected on LinkedIn with everyone I could find, including the famous Daves here, Nava and Albright. And I was using Dave Nava's tips on how to make it as easy as possible for people to help you. You know, not just asking broad, open-ended questions, being like, this is who I am, this is what I need, this is my specific question. And in the meantime, I'm going to share your posts and like your posts and give you a little LinkedIn transaction in the meantime. And it just so happened that the stars aligned. One day, Dave Albright reached out to me and said they had room to host a DoD Skillbridge Fellow. I was able to make it align with the Corporate Fellowship, came in and was a part of their team, which was amazing. And they gave me the flexibility to just really explore while I was there. My sponsor was very candid about not thinking that they would be able to hire someone in line with my timeline. So I was free to either deep dive and learn everything I could about being a solutions engineer with the team I was on, or just go explore and network and talk to people. And I ended up taking more of that kind of approach and was able to find the defense sector on the professional services side, which was really just forming and growing. And because I was an Army strategist, there was more of a natural fit there in a less tech role to be a business strategist with more of not as much of a technical background, but more of a customer background, the customer being DoD. So I was able to start there, and it's been a really great experience, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who could make it happen. My advice would be definitely work on getting buy-in from your chain of command and try to make the stars align timing wise with those HOH cohorts if you're going to go that route, so you don't have to try to go off cycle or rearrange your dates on transitioning.
Yes. Let's do one question. Dave, I see your hand. Question from Sasha. This is a fantastic effort for separating vets, and it seems a lot of it is focused on sales and other business related roles. Are there similar efforts for pure tech side of things for the vets, in particular software engineering pipelines? And so I'll let anyone on the panel kind of answer that, but I will tell you, we have a couple folks in here who've come more, as I call it, the nerd side, where Dave Nava and I are. And as Connie just said, like, she came in, shadowed some of us in the engineering side, and then said, no, I'd rather go over this side. And it also comes down to headcount, right? This is a game of cards, right? The windows have to open and things have to align, right? We'd take every one of you if you could. We'd love to have the vet community increase. But it also comes down to who's got headcount, what verticals have headcount, right? Megan Rosenberger is a fine example of that, who came in and kind of did PubSec, but ended up going a separate side. So yeah, there's definitely sides of this for engineering, tech, stuff like that. Shane, go ahead.
Yeah, what I'll say on that, I mean, I came from the Marine Corps. I had all these clearances. I was kind of aligned to like a Fed Civ public sector team during my fellowship. I ended up on the commercial side, and as they say in the military sometimes, bloom where you're planted. You have to find the opportunities that are out there, because David, to your point, it is a headcount game at the end of the day, but Salesforce puts you in a very fortunate situation because you are going to be given a lot of latitude. Like, I had friends that were in other Hiring Our Heroes Skillbridge programs, and from the moment they walked in to the moment they left, it was very scripted. It was very rigid. They made you do these things, go achieve these things. But Salesforce, you have to bring a lot of personal and professional curiosity to go out and talk to the people that you want to talk to make the 200 calls like Megan, to sit in on the QBRs, to sit in on David Albright's demos, with the customer, like be a fly on the wall and figure out really, is that what you want to do? So I had a lot of flexibility, and although I ended up in sales, I was applying for program management jobs, professional services, because once you leave the military, you may think you have an idea what you want to do, and if you're that person, more power to you. But this is also an opportunity where you can kind of figure out and validate if this is something that you really want to do.
Okay, so Dave Anderson, you had a hand up. Are you good or?
Yeah, and I'll just make it really quick. The off cohort option is something that we align with, and we get that release every month too. So if you're not aligned to the on cohort, I just wanted to catch up with what Connie was mentioning. It's all good there too. We can host throughout the year, and then I'll answer in tech and product. We're kind of working more into that division and being able to recruit there. And actually, I see our director is on today, and he comes from corp and tech, and so that is really going to help us kind of put more fellows in those technical roles that they might be looking for. And I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Dave. Over to the other Dave.
Yeah, just to directly respond to Sasha's question, don't forget the Salesforce military program does have technical certs in there. So if you're looking for a software engineer track and you need your development architect skills, there's Platform Dev 1, as well as a whole host of architecture certifications that will get you started.
And let's see, Connie, before I get you, let's see, Joyce Smith has a question. I have a full-time job currently. Would I still be eligible for the Salesforce Fellowship or Career Forward program, but with veteran spouse? Recently obtained my Salesforce admin cert. And Amanda, it looks like you answered that. Iris, go ahead.
The best thing to do is to apply, Amanda, as these programs are to upskill and trying to get a better job, trying to expand your horizons. Just again, send me an email and we'll have a conversation.
And Emmanuel Carey has a question. I started a Trailhead cert track for the UX design back in December. I got to 96% and I'm stuck there. That sounds like a technical question. I've tried everything, including YouTube, to help me overcome some of the challenges to no avail. Dave Nava, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you have a technical issue with Trailhead, you want to create a Trailhead case. You can do that on Trailhead, and they will respond to you and be able to unstick your respective trail or trail mix.
And they're really good. And we still get it too. I just had to open a case on my own stuff for Trailhead. So they're really good. They're very responsive. We'll get right back to you and they'll help you work through it. And generally they'll just kind of point you to, hey, do this or try this. And sometimes it does get stuck. I mean, it's still code running on code, just code. All right. Did I get everyone's questions? I think we're good. Mike, I think it's back up to you.
Yeah, well, I'm going to hand it off to Shane to step up, tell us a little bit about his story. He kind of talked a little bit, so he can finish it off now.
Yeah, great. Awesome. So, go back, 10, 12, 11 years ago, as a young lieutenant in the Marine Corps, I never thought I'd be leaving the military. I'm like, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to do this for a career, 20 years plus. Well, here I am right now, the furthest thing from that. And I really didn't know specifically what I wanted to do coming out of the Marine Corps. I had many different interests, so I kind of casted a wide net, entered the Hiring Our Heroes program, and like Megan, I got contacted by Dave Anderson, the best salesperson at Salesforce, and sold me on the vision and the dream. And I really didn't know what Salesforce was. I knew at my command, I was at a recruiting a sessions command. I knew we had this solution that helps you manage your data and become easier to do business with. So I was like, okay, let me start looking into this Salesforce thing. And, kind of like Connie, started reaching out to more and more veterans, hearing about their stories, kind of what they're doing. And I said, I think this is something that I truly want to do here. And being in a sales role, although not the exact same as logistics and supply chain, there were a lot of parallels, from the empathy skills and collaboration and commuting with key stakeholders and trying to develop a point of view and negotiate and persuade a superior that this is what we should do right here. I figured, you know what, that's a great way for me to be customer facing in a way that I haven't had in the past. So I started the program. The first couple of weeks, quite candidly, I was just trying to figure out what the acronyms were, learn about the different clouds, figure out where the bathrooms are, like all of these things when you enter in a new organization. And then speaking to folks like Major General Day and John Scorzato, you know, they're like, hey, Shane, you have 90 days here. You know, you need to go now. And it was about 2 weeks into it. And really starting to network now that I had a couple of weeks under my belt and talk to folks and really state my intentions. Like, yes, I'm here to meet with you, to learn about your philosophy and what you do. But at the same time, like, leave no doubt about it. Like, I'm here to get a job. Like, I'm leaving the Marine Corps after 10 years. I don't have the benefits for life or the pension. Like, I just need you to know, hiring manager, how serious I take this opportunity and how badly I want to be here. You know, all of you all are taking a pretty big bet on yourselves, and you're in a good spot right now. So start being very intentional with my outreach. And you know, kind of to David's point, it is a numbers game, you know, so just try and give yourself the best opportunity to sit forth in front of people and really tell your story about how you have a proven track record of learning in new environments, how you can communicate, how you can collaborate, and really drive value at every turn. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of hiring managers, they saw that, you know, they saw somebody that was coachable, that could be molded, and that can learn in new environments and stuff, and that had the passion to excel. And so that's kind of my story, and that's how it ended at the end of it with a full-time role.
Awesome. Thank you, Shane. So I've got a few questions that want to ask our fellows turned full-time employees, but I also want to be aware and leave some time for questions at the end. So I'm just going to pick two of them, but and any of you two can jump in on the first one or the second one. But how did the first question is, how did the fellowship prepare you for your full-time role? And just whoever wants to come off, raise a hand, just go off mute and answer.
Hey, Mike, I have an answer to that.
All right, there we go, Darren.
So the way it prepared me for enrollment right now is I was fortunate enough to be hosted where I'm working now. So that allowed me to see what an engagement manager does and then see who an engagement manager talks to every day and all day. And then you just follow those threads, connecting like Megan just discussed, to find out how the whole company gets together, and then it all combines to make an engagement successful, right? Whether it's coming from the sales side, the account executives, the SEs giving a demo on pre-sales, customer success, making sure the post-sales part works. One of the highlight in my weeks was actually getting to see Dave Nava demo in the wild, right? The whole team was there. AE, the strategist, the tech engagement manager, you know, trying to figure out, are we answering the customer's question? And what are they looking for? And how should we engage with them? So that's really how that helped me prepare for my role of being able to talk to everybody in every meeting on every thread that has something to do with making a project for engagement successful.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren. Connie.
So I had a similar experience with Darren, but kind of in an opposite way, because I didn't end up getting a full-time role where I did my fellowship, but kind of adjacent to. So it's just that ability to network. And, you know, as a fellow, hey, I'm a fellow, I'm here to learn. You can pretty much sit in on anything you want to, and people are going to welcome you because you're just there to learn. So just getting to see who does what and how everything fits together. And in my case, because I was able to work so closely with the solution engineers and the account executives on the sales side of the house, now I'm on the post-sales professional services side of the house, but with the same industry, with the same customer. So whereas a lot of the brand new people on our team have to go around and learn who those counterparts are and who does what and what the roles are. I already knew who to talk to and had good relationships with people and knew what their battle rhythm was and, you know, what meetings were going on, and also how they viewed the team that I was on and what they might know or not know. So that was incredibly helpful.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So Megan and Shane, you guys are going to bring this home for us in the questions, but this is a two-part question. So what suggestions would you give to anybody considering the fellowship? And then on the flip side, any suggestions that you would give to a manager who wanted to host a fellow or anybody who wanted to be a fellowship guide? Megan, we'll start off with you.
Sure. So first suggestions, if you're considering the fellowship, I think recognize that there's going to be, it is only that 3-month time, like Shane said. So there's a lot for you to learn, absorb, to really determine if Salesforce kind of is that post-transition spot for you. So just be a sponge, determine that fit and feel, and learn as much as you can, and jump into everything and anything that you can. And then for those guides and mentors that are supporting the fellows, this is a very busy time for a military fellow. They're going through a transition point in their career, and I'm so grateful for the mentors that I had that supported me through that. I think both personally and professionally, this is a big shift, but it's a new industry and it's a new job, and there's so much to learn, and there's so much that you don't know going into it as well. And so as much time that you can support those fellows, but really providing them just resources that may have helped you in your career, I think was very beneficial to me. And I'm incredibly grateful for all of those mentors that I had during my fellowship and still have today.
Awesome. Shane, let's hear from you.
Yeah, great. All great points. I would say, you know, you are leading a pretty phenomenal tribe, and that tribe is the military. And that's one thing that I didn't anticipate is kind of leave. I know I could go to any Marine Corps base or Navy base and I could see peers and friends and people that I worked with. And now you're in this completely new environment, you know, to take some time to also focus on yourself, talk to folks, like network, you know, kind of assess and really reflect. I think a lot of us have the natural tendency to have a bias for action, and we're always go, 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 but definitely take the time to meditate on where you've been and where you're trying to go. I don't think I did enough of that. I was just so mission focused that, you know, I kind of put that on the back burner. So that's something kind of like out of the box that I'll offer for consideration. And also really use the tools at your disposal. Like once you become a fellow, you have very powerful tools such as a Salesforce email, such as Slack. You know, you are an external hire with internal working knowledge of Salesforce. And to me, that's a lot better than just being a pure external candidate. So definitely use those tools to do your outreach, and I think you'll be well suited. And for the hiring managers, I would just say give them the time of day. I know everybody is busy. My Hire Heroes program, manager, he was very busy running a book of business, but we did carve out one-on-one time every single week, and it was on me to really come prepared to that with all of the things that I needed to observe and all the things that I needed to see. So asking for introductions, asking to be on calls, really state your intended purpose and really be intentional and upfront on how you're feeling and what you're trying to get out of the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Shane.
And Deanna has a question. Then we'll get a picture right after that. Deanna, go ahead.
Thank you so much. How's everyone doing tonight? Sorry if it's a little bit noisy. I'm at my daughter's gymnastics class. For newbies like me, I am literally a little bit over 2 weeks on my Trailhead. What kind of questions should we be asking? Like, what are some tools or some things that you guys learned that you didn't think to ask in the beginning of your networking and fellowship journey?
I think Dave Nava has got his YouTube channel. That's an absolute pot of gold. There's content on there about how to build your personal brand, how to network, how to build your LinkedIn profile, how to pass your technical certification exams. There's over 210 videos now, Dave, on there. They talk about different jobs and really the simplicity of what I talk to people about is break it down into 5 words. Trust your brothers and sisters. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn. Hey, you know, fellow veteran, soon to be transitioning service member. I'd love to connect with you. I think I want to do what you do. Did I miss anything, Dave?
No, that's great. I posted the YouTube channel link in there. Yeah, there's well over 200 videos, and you can do a search and find out exactly what you're looking for. And I would always add, you know, like to the earlier points, right? Having those phone calls with folks to take a test drive of those career paths and to figure out what you don't already know. Always end your conversation by asking for a recommendation on who you should talk to next, which will keep that chain of phone calls going and extend your network.
Yeah, good points. Colin, you have a question. Sorry, I missed you earlier.
No, you're fine. I'm easily missable. I'm an ally to the veteran community and so grateful to be working with this broader team. My question actually was more specific, Shane. I love hearing all these fellow stories from a conversion standpoint. And, I think, we're a big tech company. We're an employer of choice. Are we perfect? No. Who is? Maybe me at the end of the day. No, I'm kidding. But what I wanted to kind of speak to, Shane, is actually something that I think most candidates have a challenge with, which is almost the resiliency of, hey, it's a no for now. And you spoke to interviewing for PM roles, right? Going after a lot of different things that you already had the transferable skill set for. And so I think for this broader cohort, it's what drove you to continue that charge? Because it's so important when it is, to your point and Dave's point, a numbers game. So what led you to get to those conclusions? Because sometimes, regardless of background, people will give up in big tech. So.
Yeah, certainly. I did feel a bit of stress and anxiety, I was leaving something that was very, very stable in the military. Yeah, sure, it has its downfalls, but I knew generally when I was going to get paid. I always knew when I was going to get paid. I knew where I was going to go. I knew generally the units that I was going to serve at. This was the first time where in my career where I wasn't on a linear path. It was very ambiguous, very, very open-ended. But I just knew at the end of the day that, yeah, you do have those transferable skills. And at the end of one of my interviews, the one that I actually got, one of the hiring managers, asked a very simple question, why sales? Why Salesforce? Sales is hard, and insert whatever role. And I was like, you know what? Thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. You know what else was hard? Being separated from your family, going a long periods of time without seeing loved ones, the deployments, the workups, just the average challenges that come with military service. And I promise that I have the tangible skill sets to be successful and really drive growth for you. So I just really knew my why, and I put it in the chat, why I want to be at Salesforce, why I want to be in that particular role, and why I am the candidate of choice, and why you should take a risk on me. I didn't use the term risk, but why they should take a shot and really take a veteran over the next person.
Yeah, for sure. So I have long past missed the halfway point for our session. So let's get a group photo real quick. We'll share this on social media. This way we can all be branding, right? Especially with this rock star group of folks that are co-hosting tonight. We'll post it on LinkedIn, Twitter tomorrow. We'll tag everyone in the photo. If you want your name on there and it's not in there, just please feel free to include it in the chat. We'll pick it up and we'll add it in there. Everyone who wants to grab or participate in the photo, please unmute your video and we'll grab the screenshot. I'll probably have my mouth open like I do every session. It never fails. And I'll give you a 3, 2, 1 countdown. And 3, 2, 1. Dear Lord, let me smile. Oh God, I look way worse than even normal. I tried. Okay. The one thing I want to add on here is there's a lot of people, we got a lot of fellows, right? We have a couple of recruiters. Nava, myself, Geraldine are always on here. And a lot of the folks are in consulting roles. Priscilla, a lot of the names we see on here routinely did not have tech backgrounds. And we have made it in this, and we are not superhuman. Trust me, my wife will tell you I am an idiot. We have pulled this off, right? You can pivot. You can transition. You learn the military system and all its acronyms and its strange supply system and its forms and its, if you can figure that out, you can figure out big tech and you can figure out how to do Salesforce and things like that. So I know imposter syndrome is real, and you can talk to any of us. We all will admit it on a daily basis. It happens. Like Nava and I are fighting some stuff in Salesforce right now, and we're like, what are we doing here? You're good enough. Trust me. With that, Mike, I will pass it back over to you. Connie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up one other tip, going back to the whole discussion about headcount, and if you're on the fence about tech versus non-tech roles. Another thing that I did was get on the external facing Salesforce Workday site where they post all the jobs that are available. And I was looking at that every single day to kind of see what the hiring trends were, because it varies from time to time. Because I knew I could do anything with my fellowship, but I couldn't do everything. So did I want to deep dive and learn all the tech stuff, or did I want to get out there and meet the people I would need to meet for the roles that we're hiring? So that was incredibly helpful. And then once I was doing that, once you're in the fellowship, I would also hit up people both internally and on LinkedIn. Because if you hit up people internally on Slack, they immediately see, oh, okay, you're here, you're an employee, you're in the company. But then you hit them up on LinkedIn. That's a great way to hand someone your resume without handing someone your resume. That they can just passively see your background without, saying, hey, here's my resume, hire me, consider me for a job. So I thought those were two things that helped me out.
Yeah, thank you. Mike, back to you. I think we got time for one more question. We got 3 minutes left, and I'll close it up.
All right. Anybody have anything? I've been kind of peppering some people back and forth in the chat, but any thoughts, comments, suggestions for you, myself, Dave, or any of our panelists?
I think you should go to in-person events like the one in Philadelphia on Monday, May 6th, down at the winery, City Winery that I'm going to be at. So come say hi.
We'll have to talk about that. But if we had plenty of budget, we'd definitely be out on the road a little more. So, but in the interim, we'll make use of technology.
But to piggyback on Megan's comment, like I went through the fellowship myself through HOH, and going to those events, local events, Dream In, whatever, it's another great network opportunity to build those relationships. So like if you can, nice plug, Megan, but if you can, definitely look into it. It's another great resource.
So fun fact, I was able to go to DC World Tour just a few weeks after signing up for Trailhead a year ago. And the free headshot I got that day is now my employee badge photo.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's free
network as much as possible, folks, as you're going through this journey, because I will say it feels absolutely phenomenal to pay it forward when you get on the other side. I mean, Dave sends me candidates all the time, and unless there is an absolute hard commitment, I'm able to get to it. So it feels absolutely phenomenal to help people out, because there was a lot of people that helped us along the way.
Yeah, I think within the ecosystem, we definitely, sorry, I went off camera there for a second somehow. We definitely try and pay it forward. I think that's a kind of unwritten rule as much as we can, right? To the partners within Salesforce itself. So, passing people, we all kind of stay in touch with the recruiters. There's some on here tonight, obviously, and just kind of passing that around, right? And so that's a great tip and point. Never underestimate the network. Never underestimate that ability to speak the military, like, hey, high five, and see who you can reach out to. Okay.
The best thing is you've got a community of people that will literally stop their day and say, how can I help you out? And that's one of the best things, because you know, if you're transitioning out of the military, we know the military is not big on pushing your social media accounts. So you're stepping into an area that's really, you know, unfamiliar to you. But the good thing is once you get that first reply and you get on the phone and you get on with a salty old vet like me, it's like, all right, now I got, you know, and the next call and the next call. So like the fear of that, just put it right away, because it'll be gone after the first time you connect with somebody and they stop their day to help you out. So don't underestimate the power of our community.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I think all of us have been here because of it. So before we close, it is top of the hour. I'd like to thank Mike, Dave, Darren, Megan, Shane, and Connie for all of you co-hosting tonight's session. Awesome input, awesome feedback from all of you. Great having your input and your perspectives on the topics we've discussed. With that, I'd like to thank you all so much for attending, and we hope to see you next session. Please feel free to reach out to any of us, and have a great Wednesday night.